the Human Game Console podcast number 0008. Yeah, so we got on this one. We got the topic for this video already done because the thumbnail is yet again done. We have it calling itself the emotional independence. So this episode is going to be about emotional independence for episode 8 of the Human Game Console. I said maybe before, and I know that my strategy to have my videos interconnect with each other doesn't have to be guaranteed to work, but there are times where I say things in other videos that help other videos increase their betterment of being watched. But in case you guys basically don't even know what I meant about that, let me just say that there were videos I made before that were in addition to this one, based on emotional independence, where I said things like, where I mentioned the advice that isn't even mine, the Rich Lob advice, which was emotional independence doesn't mean go be alone or never avoid relationships, or even in spite of the people who are good about whatever they do with or without relationships or friendships or whatnot, connections in any kind, not just the ones that are guaranteed not in other ways. Emotional independence does not mean go be alone. It doesn't mean you don't have to worry about the weird things that you can exploit with or without the connections, as per other things I've been into. Like, I mean, from this namesake, I mean, there are literally like 10 of you that would probably unsubscribe to this channel if I even talked about this in a certain way. Like, not gonna lie. But there's already like 5 of you who left so far, just because I was being consistent, I guess, to say the least. But, yikes. But, yeah, there are some of you who might not like me saying this, but I gotta say it for content also, because I believe in it, so, you know. Sorry if it doesn't construe with what I've believed in myself, but some of you have implemented that better. So anyways, emotional independence doesn't mean go be alone. It means, what it does mean is whether you are with or without anybody, whether you're with or without anybody, not just relationships, not just friendships, not just business connections, partners, best friends, good people you know, or even just your pet dogs and cats. Doesn't matter who you're with at all. You're okay either way. You're okay whether you have people in your life or not. The best gift about choosing people is that you don't need them. You do not need anybody. And this is going against the societal pressures of knowing. Even things like I said before, I teased this before, with like the insurance thing. You don't need insurance. You don't need people in your life. And you certainly don't need excuses about whether or not you should have had a passion. And I can get to all that later on. But let's start with the connections and friendships, relationships thing first. Not the insurance and the passion thing. Not yet. Not yet anyways. But if you know, you know. But, yeah. But I don't need you. I choose you. And that's a very blessed ability to have. It's not even so much an ability. It's just a given common sense thing. But it has to be explained because of the way we've been programmed and brainwashed. Even if you brainwash and program yourself, thankfully, over time, because there's a way to do that positively, not just a negative connotation wise. It's supposed to be the case that what it seemed to be statistically is that most of us have been brainwashed and programmed without thinking about it. That is to say, we've been brainwashed and programmed the cliche way of letting it happen to us for the first 7 years of our life, which happens automatically anyway. I'm not gonna lie, but it happens to the extent where after age 7, where we do get the conscious to control ourselves and be responsible for once, then we still program ourselves in a way that we don't always think about or even consider being any better, because we're basing that age 7 programming and forwards on the previous last 7 years since birth. And then when you do think about it over time, even if you did start thinking about it since age 7, either way, that's usually how it works. Typically how it works is that you don't necessarily have to be hard on yourself even after age 7, but that's the idea, is that when you can control your own like thought by the power of thought alone, you're able to tell yourself that basically in essentially what you believe is a thought that comes in your head over and over and over again. And that really is the case at this point. Like, even that's just a teaching that could only be spiritual. I wouldn't have to even regard it that way. But when I say things like emotional independence, I'm not just saying it out of the woo-woo and only assuming people will believe me if they're also in the spiritual community. They don't have to be like that. They could be atheists. They could be Christians. But I just I imply that because I know that people who listen to me, regardless, they don't have to agree with everything I say. But I give this advice whether it's mine or not because I know it can help somebody. I've learned from some of my other peers that when you give advice that happens to be useful, it's not to have a point to prove. Not always, at least. It's not because you have like a desperate, vengeant point to prove. It's not so much that you have to be on a high horse and be only arrogant. It's usually you think of the people you wish you could have helped, and the things that you learned from your experiences that you surely assume that could help people in a lighthearted, good, sincere way. That's usually where that comes from. Again, emotional independence. Whether you're with or without people, you're okay where you are. Don't worry about your loneliness so much. I know it's a pain in the ass to be. I didn't say it so much in this video, but describe it a different way. Loneliness sucks. Okay, I get that. It's a pain to realize even if you're past the point of the Congo line and the Congo, happiness, hedonism, peace of mind the wrong way is like, or maybe like a bliss and positivity only is toxic positivity. I'm sorry, but you can already be harming yourself for most things. I said this last time in the 30-minute claymation video. Not claymation in that video, but talking about it. Where shadow work is good. My friend showed me that. But having fun too will also count for the long run. Remembering to have that fun. But same with the loneliness and the depression and dare I say it, clinical suicidal thoughts. And the people who get to that point, what I'm saying about the Congo line and the depression and suicidal thoughts is that people who have to already realize that they're suffering and pain, whether it was mandatory or not, when they have to go through the idea of their happiness not being as simple as that, because enough things can be simple in life. It is true that we overcomplicate things more when we have to, but it's also the case that if we don't give it the freedom to be what it needs to be, then even if it was simple, it doesn't have to be your detriment anymore. But that's if we get to find those simplicities on our own time. In my opinion, if it gets to compare and contrast with complexity, that does exist. So it's like, that's how I see it. For me, complexion is my own form of liberation and beauty. I know some people see that they have freedom and beauty and simplicity, but that's usually what's implied with it. But when I can compare and contrast each other, that's why I become a pro-materialist instead of a minimalist. It's because I like to compare and contrast things that equalize in my life. And it doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to. Well, I don't look at all my room, but you get the idea. It's that beauty of knowing that I gave things a chance to exist as per my virtues, instead of just assuming that I should be just like everyone else just because I think that I'll be lonely if I don't. And that does tie a bit more relevant and beautifully to my argument in this video. If you're really alone, depressed, trust yourself that you know you're not alone anyways, because essentially, and even again in a spiritual light, you're never truly alone, because if you really cared about yourself, you would never be alone, because if you're feeling alone by yourself, you're basically telling the universe that you're not good company on your own terms, and that you're not a fun person to be around. And that's just the facts. It's like if you're alone in that regard, you're telling the universe, I'm lonely, give me more loneliness. So and there it goes, the monetization. I didn't curse yet. Whatever. Fuck. It's like there goes my logic with how I wasn't supposed to be always woo woo, but there you go. It's gonna be okay if you are actually thinking that you're alone. But I mean, certainly you would want to believe that you're on your own good company by yourself, because that's what the universe hears instead of you assuming loneliness. When you say to yourself, I am good company, I am that person who fulfills my own void, and fills my own void by fulfilling my own desires. It would be nice to be with other people, but I don't need it. It would be nice to not feel like shit all the time, feeling however you feel. It doesn't have to be suicidal thoughts or depression or clinical insanity and suffering. But for those of you who are still down that rut and gut and dump and sump and rut and hole and whatnot, I feel for you. But you can make it. If the hermit in me, who spends all day in his room and house most days, knows how to get through to his mental health in any way he so desires to, or still finds a way to figure out his own problems, even if he's not right about everything, you can too. And it's not something that only some people can do. Anyone can do this. Don't think about it in terms of financial situations or laws and rules. I said in other videos, if you know, you know, again. Financial situations, laws and rules, whether it's literal in reality versus what's in the immaterial subjective reality, if that's a reality. Think of it in terms of what would you rather do even if it was impossible? What would you rather be able to give yourself a chance to work with? If you don't have to believe that you're actually alone, not only will lying, because give this past your head before I end this video. Give this past your head. What is a lie and a truth? Forget what truth versus fact is. What is a lie and a truth? Is a lie something that you tell yourself that isn't true, or is a lie something that you tell yourself that avoids the truth? You have to really understand in terms that maybe you are lying right now when you say you're happy and that you're smart and that you're fulfilled, but one day it won't have to be the truth anymore. And one of these days, the truth that you affirm, whether it's literally on the quote-unquote or not, the truth that you still believe you confirm, will someday divert that lie. When you affirm to yourself, you truly believe and repeat the thought that you are that excited, that happy, and in love with your life, as I have for the last 6 months plus, or maybe almost that point, but who knows. It will be the truth. And it doesn't have to be a lie just because it is in the present moment. One day, when you're not sad and lonely and isolated and depressed and suicidal and worried about why life feels apathetic or nihilistic, why things don't make sense as much as they used to in the childhood, why it feels like childhood was actually more difficult than adulthood, and why it feels like you were even more intelligent in the past than the current present. You won't have to worry about those unique abstract philosophy thoughts the way I do, whether that's unique or relatable. You bet. But I'm not doubting that though. Honestly, I'm not trying to be that kind of guy. Honestly, not gonna be that rude or weird or arrogant, I guess. Emotional independence, whether you're with anyone or by yourself, if that even is the reality, you're going to be okay. Human.G.Console podcast number 8. Take care, guys. End card content. Okay, so for 20 seconds. Yeah, these thumbnails haven't been the best, but I didn't mind them. I just wanted to not lay into the discomfort of wanting to make these videos. I still made this last thumbnail for this current video really good, so there you go. Hot and cold. Not the end of the universe eternal speaking, but that's something else. I guess. Whatever. Stop.